Hello, dear friends. We're happy to welcome you again. Today we will have a conversation with the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov
Greetings.
and Dushan.
Greetings.
I would like to begin our today's meeting and conversation with a question relating to the subject of overconsumption. The thing is that such a habit is cultivated in the consumerist format of society. And basically, all people have already become used to this kind of excessive consumption and hoarding. But many already understand that this is a road to nowhere, that such overconsumption is actually at the root of very many crises and social class inequality in society, as well as the crisis related to resources. However, this habit has been developing in us and actually taking root in society for millennia.
No.
No?
No. Overconsumption is a modern product. There was no such thing in the past. I'll put it simply. As a matter of fact, overconsumption is a result of the last decades, not even centuries. After all, earlier, people used to produce goods that had to be not just competitive, but they had to be high quality and such that people could use for a long time, so to say. Whereas nowadays that's not important. It's important to have a nice picture, and good advertising is much more important than the quality of goods. Isn't that true?
Yes. It accelerates and intensifies growth.
So overconsumption is a modern product. Advertising is imposed, hype is spread, and people are forced to, well, let's just take women's fashion or men's fashion, okay. Men are less concerned about this problem, so to say, but nevertheless, fashion changes every year, doesn't it? And for every season, those who adhere to fashion are forced to change clothes, change styles. Colors are considered fashionable or unfashionable and everything else. Yet, pardon me, what does it take for a woman to change her own look, so to say? I mean a suit, for example. It actually implies changing everything, the whole wardrobe. In addition, that includes shoes, jewelry and…
Yes, there is sort of a domino principle right away.
It entails everything up to the point that this car doesn't match my shoes. Well, this is fashion.
That happens as well, yes.
All this is actually imposed. And if we take cars, okay, 2 or 3 years pass, a new model is released or some kind of restyling is done. And if you're cool, you cannot drive an old model. Isn't that true?
Yes, sure.
And let's be honest, even those cars which used to run for decades, nowadays about 5 years, and that's it, you can throw them away. They make them such. Why? Because they do not set a goal for a car to be used for a long time, but want people to change it more often and so on. This is really so. And the quality of clothing is the same. After all, it is designed for a season or two.
There is the following question, Igor Mikhailovich. Basically, society has been sort of already accustomed to living like this for the last decade, so to say.
It has been accustomed.
But what will consumption matters be like in the creative society? How in general will mentality change, let's say, from a consumer to a creator? How will this evolution of mentality take place?
I'll explain. Everything is really very simple. Why did they start developing the fashion industry? Because the fashion industry forces people to buy the latest and newest things, doesn't it? To release iPhones every year, meaning incessant rebranding is going on and something new appears all the time. Old stuff is no longer appropriate, it doesn't fit anymore and so on. Why? Because this overconsumption drives the economy. In other words, if we stop and don't buy something this year, the economy will collapse. That's the problem. And we are forced, we are stimulated en masse to follow this overconsumption. While in the creative society, the economy is different and the approach is different. Products should be of high quality. I'm not saying there should be no fashion, but fashion should be not for 1 year, so to say. Right? Well, women might get indignant. What if I want something new? Okay, if you want it, go ahead and take it. In any case, there should be more than enough high-quality goods. I emphasize, my friends, high-quality goods. That's when it is good. I'll give you a simple example. A friend presented me with a pair of shoes that I wore for 9 years. They burned down together with the house, unfortunately. I would wear them for another 9 years. Why? Because they were of high quality and they were comfortable. You see? But if you chase after fashionable or unfashionable, that means buying new shoes every year. Yet what are new shoes? That means new calluses, right? Until you wear them in, until you get used to them. That's the answer.
A lot of people are actually afraid having such consumerist thinking. They are afraid of some kind of deprivation that, let's say, in the creative society...
There shouldn't be deprivation. There should be oversaturation.
Exactly.
Nowadays, they are afraid of oversaturation. Why? Because, in reality, huge collections of clothes are thrown away, literally thrown away. They don't even give them to second-hand stores because if it's a famous brand, it mustn't be sold as second-hand. Yet, for one or another reason, purchasing power decreases and that's all. A lot of goods remain. And that's it, they are thrown away. While in the creative society, there is no race for super profits, you see? That's the point. And the economy is totally different. And since the economy is different, hence it should be based on what? Oversaturation of the market with high-quality goods. We will get over this disease, excuse me, like the fashionable COVID, and everything will fall into place.
The value of those material goods already falls away in this case because you understand that here you have...
There is one more thing. What is now called brainwashing will disappear. In other words, it mustn't be so that someone uses mass media to brainwash us, in the literal sense of the word, meaning to foist on us something that we don't need at all. That very advertising, you know? And that's all.
You know, there is also such an understanding. A Chilean poet once said that a country goes out shopping when it feels sad.
Absolutely right.
And you realize that everything is done to ensure that our society is actually a society of unhappy people who would basically develop and drive this consumption and expand it in that direction.
You know, this consumption is a sublimation. There is no other word for it. If people are unhappy inside, they try to somehow compensate for that externally. Well, we should build such a world where people would be happy. Then there will be no need for frequent changes of one's wardrobe. Isn't that true?
Yes, exactly.
Everything can be solved, and it can be solved very easily. So, let's just say it's not a problem.
Igor Mikhailovich, during the transition period, let's say, the issue of overconsumption will be solved precisely by the quality of goods.
By the quality.
But when there is the creative society, we actually discussed that there will be technology in one way or another associated with cartridges.
You see, during the transition period, there will certainly be small issues in the beginning. Why? Because we are accustomed to living this way. While in this case it will change. We are accustomed to the fact that something is foisted on us, that they tell us something. Yet people's consciousness must not be manipulated this way. One mustn't impose any colors or anything else. That doesn't mean there should be no fashion, I'm saying again, but this mustn't be abused. I understand it's a whole industry, you see. Some might say, what about us? Well, you will anyway receive enough of your basic income in such an amount that you won't have to brainwash anyone, my friends. As for working on quality improvement, this is needed, right? And we should develop such a fashion that would always be fashionable, not the way that today it is one thing while tomorrow it's another, and everything will be fine.
I also remember you sharing that the creative society is to some extent a paradise even for a consumer.
Well, that's because technological capabilities will be completely different. We already talked about this more than once. I understand that it sounds like science fiction, and many people will say, well, they're sitting and fantasizing. Friends of mine, in order to avoid that, so that you don't get an idea that we are sitting and fantasizing, just answer me, what does this whole world consist of? The entire world. And we will come to realize that it consists of just a small set of particles, right? So their manipulation and arrangement changes everything completely. From metal, to a cake on a table. Isn't it so? It is. If we have enough energy and understand how this is arranged, well, we already understand how it is arranged, let's say, and we know where to get the energy. You see, a lot is being solved, already being solved. Then we will be able to create anything, right? Let's imagine, we will repeat it with you once again, friends, let's imagine For example, that you have a microwave oven. What do you do in it? You heat up or cook food there and so on. While in this case, you press on a screen and select from the menu. In other words, literally by a finger touch you choose what you now need: a new blouse, earrings, a ring, a sandwich, or an ice cream. You get it by pressing one button. A sandwich is hot and ice cream is cold. And earrings are made of any metal and are of any style you want. Why? Because if we decompose it all, it's all one and the same thing. This is possible. Well, some people are outraged. Friends, it is possible and it is very easy. As of today, there's a 3D printer, right? Which already prints meat. Isn't it so? It is. You know, my friends, just recall, quite recently, it was amazing to your great-grandparents how people could communicate with each other by wires. Recall the telegraph. When did it appear? Quite recently. Well, nowadays you hold tablets and phones in your hands that have the whole world in them. There is the internet and all sorts of things. Technology is actually advancing very fast. And let's put it so, such evolutionary leaps are possible. They are possible. It's not difficult.
Even in our time, we used to watch some movies, science fiction ones. In other words, you realized, wow, how is that? And then you understand that in 10 or 15 years, you yourself basically use this capability.
Absolutely right.
That have been already discovered as of today.
If earlier we were surprised when we read science fiction or saw all this in the movies, now we use it. So it's normal, friends. Do you know what else is a big advantage? For example, you take a sandwich or a first course. For instance, borscht. You want it with buns and garlic.
Yes.
Isn't it nice?
Great.
Great. You don't have to wash the plate. No need to wash the plate.
And that's it.
And you sweep away all the crumbs.
All housewives are rejoicing now.
Yes. You put it in, let's call it a kind of washing machine. And that's it. It is instantly recycled. Those particles go into the same cartridge in the microwave, where you can get the next plate of borscht. Isn't that great?
Super.
Yes. You order a blouse.
Okay.
You go somewhere, you know, to get some air or to go for a walk in a park. Well, what can you take there? An ice cream. And you accidentally get dirty. Or you eat some fast food and get ketchup all over yourself. Do you know that it's a gain for you? For many people,
It's not a problem, at least.
For many people, it's a problem.
Right.
Yes, nowadays. Well, in that case, you come home and throw this very blouse, but it already has ketchup on it. Those are additional particles.
More valuable.
Of course, it's already... Dirty clothes become more valuable than clean ones. Why? Because both dust and dirt are those very particles. Everything is very, very simple. So there are a lot of advantages.
Great. Igor Mikhailovich, you know, you touched upon the topic of a kind of futuristic future a little bit.
Right.
Whereas the creative society is in fact a society where there is robotization, which people are actually a little bit afraid of,
Surely.
and which is now being restrained.
People are afraid of it nowadays, because nowadays it's not possible to introduce it everywhere. In many countries it is even forbidden by law. Why? People will be jobless. Again, introducing robotization on a full scale nowadays would create such a wave of indignation that, God forbid, that's why we're still... Ecology and many other things, and also this problem, that's why they want to reduce us. Excess people are not needed here on this planet, right? Why? Because robots can work, produce a lot, and the like, and there wouldn't be huge masses of jobless people who want to eat.
You know, when you watch the plots of futuristic films, yes, everything is great. You don't need to go to shops, you don't need to see a doctor. Some people don't even need to go to work sometimes. And you understand that everything that the cinema draws for us now implies, let's say, that people are a little bit lonely and isolated there. And people are concerned, since many people go to that very, I don't know, hair salon or to a doctor in order to simply meet some kind of their need for social contact.
Okay.
And the question is, what will be the situation with social communication in the creative society?
Let's put it simply. Again, the issue of communication in the creative society. There are plenty of platforms, plenty of opportunities to communicate. It's not a problem, but let's look at this from another side. You say that people go to a hair salon to socialize, right? Tell me, How long does it take you to go to the hairdressers, to get a haircut, to dye your hair, to beautify yourself?
Well, for women with complicated coloring techniques, it takes about 4 to 5 hours.
5 hours.
A lot of time.
5 hours, friends.
5 hours.
Yes. While in the creative society, even during the transition period, even as of today, it is possible to ensure that it will take you, not counting the choice of hairstyle and the choice of this complex coloring. We will skip it, it can take long, I'm not arguing about that.
The agony of choice.
But the process itself may take a few minutes at most.
I like it.
Well, everybody likes it.
It's very convenient.
And do you know what another big benefit of it is? A hairdresser will be healthy. Because when she's cutting hair, especially fine hair, she often breathes all this in. Just imagine fine hair that gets into her lungs. It actually pierces her alveoli. Hairdressers often get sick after that. And what about keeping her arms elevated all day long, standing over you for 5 hours, holding the arms outstretched in front? Try it, friends. Those who don't know what it's like. This entails, excuse me, cervical osteochondrosis, arthrosis, and many other things, doesn't it? Is it a good job? A good and necessary one. It makes women prettier. But it does a lot of harm to one's health. Why do it? When you can just entrust it to those very robots and automate the process, it doesn't mean that the robot will be standing over you. No, what for? Let it be an impromptu, okay? You come in, choose a picture, and just sit down. For example, there's a dryer which is put on the head. All you have to do is lift up your hair. And that very artificial intelligence, for example, can cut every hair of yours with a laser, not with scissors. Do you know what the benefit would be? A laser solders and seals hair. No one and nothing gets in there anymore. Or your hair is just broken with a pair of scissors. And later on, it splits and becomes unhealthy, and there are a lot of other issues, right? Plus, in those 2 minutes, artificial intelligence can treat your hair, dye each hair the right color, and style your hair the way you want. It takes very, very little time. Do you know what's interesting? Right now, we can make this kind of equipment. It is possible. Some people might say, no, it's complicated. There is nothing complicated, friends. It's a lot easier than equipping 5th-generation fighter jets with artificial intelligence and making them, for example, fly around and kill innocent civilians. So what is better? It's better for those people who deal with artificial intelligence and solve technically complex problems in order to kill us, to engage in making our women more beautiful. Isn't that nobler? Isn't that better? Isn't that the right thing to do? A simple question, friends.
Great.
It is possible, isn't it?
It is, and with health benefits for sure.
There is nothing complicated about it. I'm more than sure that people with a technical background, especially, with such an innovative way of thinking, have already imagined how it could be and how easy it is to actually do this even now. Everything is simple.
Okay, Igor Mikhailovich, but where will people communicate then? There is actually such a question.
Anywhere.
There are platforms for communication.
Platforms.
This is everyday life.
This is our everyday life,
People don't
right?
quite realize that it doesn't mean that they are encapsulated somewhere or stay at home.
You see, nowadays, I'll put it simply, people are much more encapsulated nowadays. Here's a simple question. People go to a restaurant, okay? There are certain categories that enjoy going to restaurants, bars, whatever. There are a lot of people who sit at home, just looking at their phone or tablet for months, years, and so on. They don't go out, do not go to bars, and do not communicate with people. Do you know why? They can communicate through gadgets, not in person. They are afraid to go to a restaurant because some drunken hooligans might insult them, beat them, and so on. It's the same with going to a bar. It's the same with going out for a walk in the evening. There may be criminals and whatnot. This is what restrains people nowadays. There are many more such people than those who currently go to those very bars and restaurants, far more than those people who nowadays go for a walk in the park in the evening. While in the creative society it will be impossible even to insult anyone, not to mention to hit or, I don't know, God forbid, to kill anyone. It's unrealistic. Why? Because any crime is committed only when there is at least a chance of getting away with it. I'll repeat once again, we already discussed it with you in the previous videos, that in the creative society, even the introduction of those technologies that already exist today, some of them perhaps still need a little improvement, will eliminate all forms of crime. Why? Because everyone will be visible. Yes, it can also scare a lot of people, it's like, how is it that I will be watched 24 hours a day? Yes, my friend, you will be watched. But this is for your safety and for your happy life. Yet no one will be interested. Let's put it so, if artificial intelligence or artificial consciousness is watching, I don't think you care. If you don't commit crimes, if you live a righteous life, don't insult anyone, don't beat anyone, and don't steal, then what do you have to be afraid of? The fact that you have visited your female neighbor, or your female neighbor has come to you, or excuse me, your male neighbor has come, those are your personal affairs. If you like it, no one else is interested in it. Well, consciousness immediately gets activated, everything I do will be seen. Dark business, well, there will be no dark business in the creative society. Why? I'm just saying, even if the Voskhod multipurpose complex is introduced, that's it, dark business will be over. Everyone will have to work openly. Why would you want dark business in the creative society when everything is available? A simple question. This is so even during the transition period. While in the creative society itself there should be no concept of money, just as there should be no concept of power, right? Will anyone lose anything? They won't. There will only be safety. Let us take another side. What does it mean that 24 hours a day, all people on the earth are under surveillance, under constant surveillance of artificial intelligence, let's put it mildly, or maybe consciousness, who knows? It's up to people to decide. I'm personally for intelligence. What will it give? No person in the world will disappear, because, excuse me, wherever he disappears, he is immediately found. It's impossible to even commit a small crime against you, my friend. What does that mean? For instance, you come out of a bar. Even if you have taken alcohol, no one will beat you up, no one will insult you, no one can do anything bad, they will only help you. Is that bad? Or, a simple question, you go out with your girlfriend, my friend, from your own house, and you won't meet bullies who can humiliate and insult you in front of your girlfriend. Is that bad? You see, the animal component in people will be gone. They won't be like jackals when a pack attacks an individual. Who hasn't experienced that? Well, some people will say, how can we do that? It's easy. I'm saying it again. Surveillance shows where everyone has been and what they have been doing. If an act of violence is committed, excuse me, you will be held accountable according to the law. What laws? People will write them. All of us together, we will create those laws that will exclude manifestation of the entire animal component in us, and will make the world the way we want it to be, right? What's wrong with that? A simple question.
By the way, we started talking about transparency. It is also interesting, and it was discussed earlier, that a lot of people are worried about their financial flows being transparent. They don't want their neighbor to know, for example, how much they paid for their car. People are still worried about such points.
Do you know why this person doesn't want his neighbor to know how much he paid for his car?
Why?
Because when a person doesn't want his neighbor to find out how much he bought it for, it means he bought it for a low price, and he wants his neighbor to think he bought it for a high price.
I see.
Isn't that so? It's the only option. If you buy an expensive, beautiful car,
You will surely show it off, won't you?
you will show it off before your neighbor, so that the neighbor would think how cool you are, you have such an expensive car, even if you bought it cheap. It's the only problem in that case. You see, now it's understandable, but why would a person be afraid of anything in the creative society? Tell me. A simple question. Firstly, if we take the purely creative society and that very car, it is clear that if you work, you can afford a supercar. However, if you are on the basic package, in this case, sorry, you cannot have a Rolls-Royce. Yet a Camry should be available for you, right? Well, is a Camry a bad car?
It's not.
It's not. That's the present-day situation. But in general, ideally, there should be electric cars, right? Based on new technologies. Cars should be such that they wouldn't need to be charged or repaired. Yet they should still undergo maintenance. Why? Everything wears out and everything needs some kind of maintenance, right? At any rate, once every 50,000 kilometers you would bring the car for maintenance, or you would bring it there every year. Well, it depends on how you drive, of course. Some people might even drive 200,000 kilometers within a season. I always had less than 10,000 kilometers. That's how it usually was.
And another question arises here. If we look at the overall situation in the creative society, everything will be better. Of course, there will be better cars, which means that at some point, the production of cars will come to an end. Because if everybody gets good cars, then I don't know. Well, a question arises.
There will be more than enough cars.
Right. Who will engage in that? Those people who worked in this industry, what will they do?
They will do something else.
But the question is, what will they do? Because again, if we talk about building the creative society, a big question arises. Okay, fine. I have an income. I have everything. But what am I going to do? What will I engage in?
In whatever you want.
People are afraid that people in society will stop working.
People will not stop working.
Right.
They simply won't. How many people do not work nowadays?
Yes, there is a percentage of those who
A
don't.
huge, enormous percentage. Let's put it simply, there is a certain stratum, okay, which is called bureaucrats, who at present, for over 90%, are busy with only receiving salaries. Plus, a lot of them make extra income, owing to bureaucracy and corruption. Meanwhile, they bring zero benefit to humankind and society.
But this stratum is large.
The stratum is enormous. It isn't just large, it's enormous. Why? Because it can all be reduced and we won't even notice that. We will only see that it has become easier and simpler for us to live, easier to obtain a document, easier to do something and so on, you see? There will be less paperwork and fewer problems. While everything will continue to work just as it worked before, we have an overly inflated staff of bureaucrats in any country. It is huge and isn't needed at all. They go to work to socialize and do some empty paperwork. This is really so. All of that can be easily and instantly replaced by artificial intelligence. Also, regarding factories that make cars, why should people work there? Robots should do that. Well, people should just watch from afar how robots do their dirty hard work, producing cars for us, the most beautiful cars. Isn't that so?
Right, but suppose I would...
What will people occupy themselves with?
Right, because for example, I will lie on the couch and...
You won't.
You won't be able
And
to.
I don't know, I will endure a month, okay?
That's right. You're saying it yourself.
Yes, a month.
You will
yes.
endure a month.
But already afterwards.
Afterwards, you will go look for something to do.
Right.
This is where enormous opportunities will open up for you. If you want to make cars, please go ahead. Who prevents you from doing that? It's not a problem. You make a car by hand, you order something, again, those very 3D printers, right? You can make a car of any shape, assemble it manually, and drive your own car. Is that possible? It is possible.
It is.
You can assemble a car for someone with an exclusive design. Can you do that? You can. You can develop the principles of new engines or something else. Can you do that? Yes, you can. There's a lot of work to do. Also, if we take the creative society development with the advancement of technology and so forth, there will be too much work for people to do. This is really so. Why? Because new industries will emerge that currently don't exist. They should be present and they are needed, but they don't exist. Well, due to the fact that
All this is restrained.
we live in the consumerist format, a lot of things are restrained and so forth. But in general, people should be freed from such heavy and improper occupations. People should be more engaged in creativity and self-development. Where human hands are needed, of course, they should be there. And there will definitely be those who would want to do that. They will come and do it. There will be a place for everyone. It's really true.
It is also interesting that even in the matters of some hobbies and a mission of a human, we understand that, yes, the development of artificial intelligence is being restrained. We've been presented with a narrow niche of what we can do and what our interests, hobbies, passions, and missions can be. A person looks at this narrow selection and understands that, well, perhaps I was created for something greater.
I'll tell you more.
There is this feeling that
You see, the problem is that the mission of a human here, the purpose of his stay in this world in general, is concealed from people. Human potential is realized in nearly no one. This is indeed true, and even if someone does realize his potential, he realizes only a small percentage of it. While in the creative society a lot will change in this respect. And after those changes, believe me, many people's attitude to life will change as well. When life itself changes, and there emerges an understanding of the human essence, humanity's capabilities will increase manifold, and everyone will find where to apply their abilities, believe me.
so now we don't even
We
understand
don't understand who we
what
are.
our mission is, what prospects we have, and what we can do in
We don't
general,
understand anything at all, of
how we
course,
can be useful to each other in this
to each
world.
other, and to the world as a whole.
You know, our friends who watch us, our viewers, also shared their reflections that they currently observe indigenous peoples, I don't know, Native Americans in the USA, for example, or other indigenous peoples. Those people receive certain subsidies. They get public funds, they have real estate and money for living. However, the following picture is observed that those communities basically degrade. Alcoholism flourishes there, they play at casinos and so on.
Yes, they have no opportunity to receive education or to become a president of the United States. I'm speaking figuratively, you see why? Well, let's say, if we talk about the United States, everyone wants to be the US president. This is sort of a criterion for measuring the status of being somebody.
Maximalism.
Yes, this is actually cultivated and promoted. In any case, everyone hopes for that. While in this case, a child is born, and they know that he may become the same alcoholic as them, at the best, and sit on the government's neck. And those people are limited. It is really hard for them to pursue a higher education. It's very difficult for them to fulfill themselves. Why? Because they are in a reservation. A simple question, where are you from? From a reservation. And he is no longer treated like a human. You see? Yet the creative society will remove those limits. Anyone can receive any kind of education. I'll say even more. During the transition period, yes, for a little while there will be alcohol drinking, drug addiction and everything else, but it will cease very quickly. When people find out what alcoholism really is and how it affects a human being, you know, it will be difficult even to pour a drop into anyone. It will even be difficult to inject alcohol as a medicine into a person. Why? He will refuse. The same applies to drug addiction and everything else. Yet why can this not be done now? Do you know the turnover of, let's say, the alcohol industry? A simple question.
I don't know, but I can guess from
It is huge.
how it is promoted, of course.
Exactly.
And during crisis, the turnover only increases.
Absolutely right.
grows.
Whatever crisis takes place, alcohol trade brings enormous
It
profits.
skyrockets.
Right, as well as, sales of medicines and everything else. It can only be overcome by the formation of the creative society. There is no other way. Yes, you can prohibit it. Remember, when the Soviet Union was falling apart, there was the first president of the USSR who introduced prohibition and made the country alcohol-free. The country didn't stop drinking, but they destroyed gardens and everything else. Why? Because he did not create any
A transition
conditions for
to
that.
something different.
He didn't explain what alcoholism is and how much it really affects people, and so on, and what people lose by drinking alcohol, and what they exchange for what. You see, in fact, we are all selfish and we are all consumers in our essence, so if we proceed from that, the creative society is a perfect society for consumers and egoists. There is no other way to put it. It is indeed so, my friends. Why? There are sheer benefits there. There cannot be a more beneficial existence for a human than in the creative society, because everything is adjusted for a person. You see?
All the more, all people in the world are united by this very aspiration for well-being, even within the framework.
Isn't it true?
It is everyone strives, maybe at each other's expense,
We
but
carried out huge projects, yes, which lasted for a long time. We studied what people wanted, so what do they want? Sheer pleasure, freebies and things like that, right? That's true. Again, it's a flourishing of selfishness and consumerism. Well, it is really so. if we don't take the spiritual aspects and all the rest. So the creative society gives it all, specifically to a person. And I cannot imagine how one may not want it, because everyone wants it, and everyone dreams about it. People just don't know and don't understand what the creative society is, you see. When they hear it, they get scared, and that's it.
You know, it sounds like science fiction, because I come home and I have everything.
Yes,
Just everything.
just everything.
But you know, there is such a thing. What's the meaning then?
This very point that one has everything precisely stimulates the higher meanings of the human mission. Believe me, there will be a lot to do. I don't even want to voice it now. You will find occupations for yourself, but you won't lie on the couch for sure.
Okay.
Maybe for a while. Yet, afterwards, there will be something to do. It won't hold a person back. Again, the fact that you have everything. Yes, you have it in material terms. You don't have to work to have everything you want to eat, right? Let's take a simple example. What do we have there? Lobsters, okay? Have you ever tasted a lobster? Honestly.
No.
Have you tasted a lobster?
No.
I haven't tasted it either, honestly. So the three of us haven't tasted it, and there are billions of those who haven't tasted it. Well, in that case, you want a lobster, and here is a lobster for you, and you taste it, you see? You have everything you want, you already have it, moreover, of the best quality, of the best, various best dishes from all over the world. And those culinary masterpieces have been created by the best chefs in the world. You see, the chefs will have something to do, to create new recipes, to combine them somehow, to create new flavors, new visions, and so on. All this is entered into an electronic database, and everyone already has it at home.
Great.
So we will say thank you to one or another chef who has created this masterpiece, right?
Right.
Well, you see, people really have a lot to do, and it's up to infinity.
Igor Mikhailovich, this is a very important point, because many people say that, yes, let's suppose artificial intelligence robots will be hairdressers, while there are people who, well, for whom it's just love for their profession, for whom it's just sheer pleasure.
A human is a creative being.
Exactly.
A human was not born and created to, pardon me, wield a big hammer or dig holes all day long. That's not what God created a human for.
While in this case, people can just implement their ideas,
Implement them.
train that very artificial intelligence.
Again, people can implement their ideas, and their ideas can serve the whole world. And when at the core of the whole community, we will have the main idea, how to improve life for oneself and for everyone. Because by improving life for yourself, you improve it for everyone, you see? Then the world will change. There will be meaning in your life, because you serve the whole community. Yes, it is clear that someone can invent something better, but this will actually stimulate you to create something even better, to improve the quality of our lives even more. Isn't that interesting?
It's interesting, Igor Mikhailovich. Will there be the elite in the creative society?
For sure. We cannot avoid this, friends. There will definitely be the elite. But who is the elite nowadays? Who is published in Forbes magazine? Those who are the richest, right?
Power, control over society.
Obviously, what's behind this? Oppression, enslavement, deception, lies, they rob, steal, and so on. I'm not saying all of them do that. You know what I mean, friends. Who will be the elite afterwards? Those who do more for people and create something that improves our lives. So whoever does the most to improve our lives will be in that very Forbes. We will have someone to thank and to be proud of. Right?
Perhaps they will live better, but with a limitation of wealth.
This is during the transition period. While in the creative society, money doesn't exist at all.
No funds, right.
But people will still want to attract attention. We are egoists after all. Right? After all, we want to be applauded by people, to be recognized, to be thanked, don't we? Even if you have everything, but you don't attract someone's attention, excuse me, you will burn out very quickly like a candle. You burn out and disappear. But in order for you to shine like the sun, you need someone to pay attention to you. In any case, you need to socialize, do something, and find some tools for attracting attention to yourself. Isn't that so? It is. the value of human attention.
How would a person in charge in the creative society differ from the one in power, for example?
Nowadays, power is when a person, by his decision, can worsen someone's life. Right? Use corruption, whatever is possible, make up laws. It is those who sit higher to the top. As for those who are in a lower rank, they can also misuse their power, refuse to sign some kind of a paper or do something else, isn't that so?
It is.
You see, a person who is in a responsible position, even during the transition period, all of his activities must be visible anyway. That is, he won't be able to steal anything, nor will he be able to appoint his crony as his own deputy. Why?
There will be transparency.
Transparency. Plus, a system that monitors his activities. Not only is his every move known to everyone, but any decision he makes is made public and visible to everyone. Besides, there will be a system that will control both the funds and everything else during the transition period. There will surely be attempts, I say it right away, because we are used to that, we exist. In the consumerist format where this is possible, let's take China. In China, officials are shot for stealing. However, they continue to steal.
Yes.
As long as there is money, there will be those who steal. But with the introduction of, let's say, the Voskhod MPC, any official will know that he cannot steal anymore. He simply can't. Plus, there will be another system that monitors where he is, with whom he is, and what he is talking about.
One more interesting point, Igor Mikhailovich. It turns out that nowadays, basically, when officials steal money from people, this is explained by the fact that there are some secret budgets.
This is also a problem, of course.
For the needs of state security.
Nowadays, officials can steal easily, of course. Why? Because, as you correctly say, they still have some secret affairs, right? I mean classified.
There is something marked as classified.
Right, when it is marked as classified, it is all bypassed and stolen. This takes place among agencies, officials and so on. In the creative society, excuse me, there are no wars, no one is at war with anyone. Everyone lives in peace, in love and in joy. There is no other way, you see?
And in safety.
And in safety, which is the most important point.
Right.
That means there are no secrets at all. Because any secret implies manipulation, or that something is being done against people.
Secret action.
Secret action. Secret action is not beneficial for people. Therefore, everything will be open and accessible. How would a person in a high position use responsibility as his own power in such a case? In no way at all. Right? That's what I'm saying, it's just that a legislative framework should also be created. But again, this should be done by lawyers, by those who are good at this. And the legislative framework should take into account all our vile qualities of every one of us, so that we could not manifest our animal nature, this inhumanity, so that it would be punished in such a way that we wouldn't want to do that. Thus, when we know that we cannot act this way, we cannot steal from people, we cannot deceive anyone or insult anyone, everything will fall into place, believe me, we won't insult anybody. Here is a simple example. Someone steps on your foot. Okay, on my foot, we'll take pity on you. Just like in the modern world, a person comes out of a store, someone pushes him with a bag and steps on his foot. Well, a person will either spit on the back of his offender, or he will tell him to get lost, right? In the creative society, you will have to say, "Good sir, be careful." Well, he has to respond, "Thank you, I'm sorry."
So culturally,
right.
Wonderful.
For example, if someone steps on my foot, well, I use foul language towards him for that, and he turns around and uses foul language towards me. Both of us will be cleaning the area around the shopping center for at least 3 months. In front of everyone, after all, we are cool, we are heroes, we use foul language towards each other. While in that case, both of us will clean the area in front of everyone. And we won't escape that. Why? Because there will be no alternative. Next time we bump into each other in the doorway, we'll say, "Excuse me, please go first." Right? And all our acquaintances, those who have seen us, will behave in exactly the same way. Because the law is the same for everyone.
A good example is also contagious when you see...
A very good example. It's better to hold the door open, help a person come out
Yes.
and say, "Please go first," than to sweep, let's say, the asphalt near a shopping center for 3 months. Right?
On the other hand, it will be simpler for the next generations.
It will be hard
It's
for
the
us.
older generations who grew up under the consumerist format who will need time to change their
Honestly,
ways.
it will be hard for us. It's a breakdown of patterns. Why? Because first of all, we will have to watch ourselves and our habits that we will have to change. We will have
There
to...
should be control of one's state and one's thoughts,
Sure,
right?
if you are supposed to drive at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour, you as a driver will drive at 50 kilometers per hour even if there is no one there at all. Why? Because you won't be able to violate that. Otherwise, you'll be cleaning public toilets. You don't want that either, yet they have to be cleaned. Where would you escape? But you don't want to do it. You don't want to waste your time, right?
Right.
You would rather go fishing, 3-month fishing, or cleaning public toilets. There is a difference, right? There is. That's why it is better to drive at a speed of 50 kilometers where the sign is posted, and then drive the way the law allows you to, so to speak. You will be cultured and polite, right? You will be, well, this is hard for us. It's now hard to switch from our state to the new way. It will be hard for many people. How's that not to steal if there is so much stuff lying around? But you cannot steal, you see? You cannot either use foul language or insult or steal. Well, yes, I understand this is somehow... We will live through that and get used to it quickly. And in the same way, we will quickly get used to new technology. You know, it's when one thing goes after another, life changes, everything flows. Well, it is somehow, when something new appears every day, you look, again, something new has just appeared, and about a month later, you already have it. That's really good. Well, we will somehow get used to it quickly. But it will certainly be much easier for the next generation because they will already live in that world which we, God grant, will manage to build, friends. And do you know the most important point that has just been voiced here? The next generation that hasn't been born yet will live. And not like nowadays, when you don't know what will happen today. I'm not even talking about tomorrow. Not only the same people like us decide for us whether we should live or not, and can take our entire life right now, of all of us together, or someone individually. But in addition, there is the climate, which can also change our common destiny.
The course of our history.
In the course of our history.
And will there be history
Absolutely right.
for people at all?
There is the climate which can simply stop our history, and is no longer a joke. Everyone already understands that. I'll put it simply. One oscillation of a certain amplitude in our core there is enough for us to cease to exist. Do you know why? The cavitation effect, an irregular rotation or an irregular angle, can cause what? A simple example. Here's the most simple example. Imagine a liquid medium, an ordinary one. There is a solid body in it. This solid body is in some other larger volume, something like a ball. I mean, a small iron ball is in the liquid within a big ball. So, if we sway the liquid in a little bit irregular way, and we know what is now going on, what will happen? Attention is transferred onto the liquid medium due to the oscillation, and cavitation increases. And what does cavitation increase? The volume of the liquid. What can that lead to?
Expansion.
Absolutely right. How is expansion compensated for in that very magma? By a release to the outside, or by an activation of supervolcanoes. If several supervolcanoes become active within one instant, and this may happen at any moment, what will happen to us as humanity? It's a big question, isn't it? If it happens right now, then sorry, friends. We won't have time to build a creative society. And this is sad. Therefore, it's not going to happen now.
Thank God.
There should be a chance for us to build a creative society. But if we fail to build a creative society, then it's a different case.
So let's hurry to act for building the creative society.
Absolutely right. That's the whole point.
You know, Igor Mikhailovich, we are now talking about such great illustrative examples which relate to one's everyday life. And you know, sometimes there is an understanding that many people do not fully grasp the essence of the Creative Society project because we convey information somewhat in a wrong way. It sounds more like a presentation of something than what the Creative Society will give for a specific life of a specific individual.
Why do people not understand sometimes? What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, because we ourselves haven't yet grasped what the creative society is.
We ourselves do not understand and do not know, but we try to tell others,
Yes.
right? Yet there is also another reason. We talk about philosophy, about the essence of the 8 foundations.
The 8 foundations, yes.
Right.
We present everything so beautifully, colorfully, and so on. Meanwhile, a human is a consumer, you see? Let me just give you a simple example. Let's take an average person in an average country, an ordinary person, who lives, let's say, somewhere in the center of Europe. Well, figuratively. We tell him, and he looks at us like, you know, like at whom? Like at ordinary representatives of a religious organization or some party.
Yes,
He doesn't trust either of those.
yes. They always want to drag him somewhere.
This is true, friends. Why? Let me give an example for understanding. Say, there is a man who lives almost in any city, no matter which one. In that city, there are several religious organizations, let's call them this way, that believe in one God. But they are different. Some are better, some are worse. And so the man wonders, maybe I should go to some religious organization. I mean, something has fluttered in him and a desire has emerged. He begins to tritely analyze, where should I go? Those ones say, if you come to us, you'll be saved. And the other ones say, if you come to us, you will be saved. Yet the former ones say, don't go there, you won't be saved. And the latter ones say, don't go there, you won't be saved. It turns out to be a strange situation. God is one, they have the same book, but religions are different. However, that's not the worst thing, my friends. Do you know what makes the man think? He looks at old women. There is one neighbor to the left and another one to the right. One of them goes to one religious organization, the other one goes to another. They go to their churches on weekends as appropriate and do everything as they should. Yet he doesn't see them when they are in the church. He knows them as neighbors, and he understands perfectly well that it's not just that nobody will admit these old women to heaven, but they won't be admitted even to hell. So he wonders, should I actually go where such old ladies are produced or raised? This already alerts him,
Yes.
and distrust arises.
When the advice they give doesn't help the ladies themselves.
Right. But there is another trouble. Elections come. Politicians from one party and another party come again and start telling the man, your life will change so nicely if you delegate your own power to us, and we will be able to use the power you delegated to us against you. We'll make your life beautiful. The man starts thinking, doesn't he? He says, last time I voted for the former ones. The time before I had voted for the latter ones. Both parties made my life worse when they came to power. In the end, before subsequent elections, they said, we did everything we could for you, our friend. We improved your life very well, we did everything we could, but you see, friend, there is a country, over there, far away, which you know nothing about, and there is a man on a horse there. And because of that man on a horse, you now live a shitty life. You see? So what should this man do? What should he believe in? And whom should he trust? Do you understand? And suddenly we come and say, man, you know, there is the creative society, there are the 8 foundations. Go to the website and read, or let us tell you right now, here's the first foundation, something else. Well, how would a normal man react? Tell me. He would tell us to get lost.
With caution, to put it mildly.
Well, I'm speaking straightforwardly. He would simply tell us to get lost or would spit in our back if he's cultured, whereas if he's uncultured, he would spit in our face, right? Why? Because the entire life is like that, you see? That's the problem. But if we approach the man and ask him, how do you want to live, man? What would he say? He would say, I don't want politicians to cheat me and blame the man on the horse for everything. I want old ladies to love each other and me, and to stop going around. Well, it should somehow be clear why God is one, the book is one, but religions are different, and old ladies are angry. After all, religion should help somehow. There should be something that would actually work. There has to be truth somewhere.
This verity,
Yes, and then we can tell him, do you know where the truth is? Where? Inside you, man. What do you really want? You've just said you want politicians not to cheat, you want old ladies to live peacefully. But this is actually the creative society. Isn't that right? Will there even be politicians in the creative society who would shift their responsibility onto a man on a horse? A simple question. Of course not. Will there be angry old women? No. There will be old women, but they cannot be angry a priori.
There will be disciplinary methods.
Quite right. They can be angry, but they won't show that. That's already good for their neighbor. Are there pluses? There are, just look. Jokes are jokes, but this is true indeed. We do not tell a person what he will really acquire as an egoist and consumer. Why? For 6,000 years, they've been turning us into slaves. We are slaves, and we have to admit it. We are consumers because for 6,000 years they've been turning us into consumers. Let's just admit we are consumers. And let's proceed from that. Right? Are we interested in politics? Only if they make something better for us. Are we interested in religion? Well, only as a freebie like. I go to church, I come home, and there's a bag of money lying around. You know, God has given it, right? Well, this is really so. I'm exaggerating, but in fact, this is so. We are consumers. So the only thing that can give us what we want as consumers today is the creative society. Yet, it not only satisfies our needs, but it gives us an opportunity to become humans. That's the meaning of the creative society. And we should tell people about what they want and what they will really acquire. Then they will understand us, right?
Right.
Right. Everything is very simple, whereas if we speak abstrusely and beautifully, trying to look like, well, I don't know, sectarians or politicians, we will be treated like, sectarians or politicians. It won't be otherwise. Let's tell the truth. What is the real truth? It is that the creative society radically changes our consumerist way of life, making it truly, incredibly consumer-oriented. Well, isn't that true? Why? Because
A consumer paradise.
it's a consumer paradise.
Right.
Yes.
It is really a paradise for living. It's an Eden that we can build with our own hands, right? Right. Why is it Eden? For it is truly an Eden. First of all, we close all the issues with consumption. It's a safe and wonderful world where, pardon me, your health is restored even if you accidentally lose it. Plus, you obtain any product, anything you want in abundance. And most importantly, you stop being brainwashed, and you can unfold in your potential as a higher being, not a beast. That's what is important. And it is also important that in such a world, in the creative one, we will have many more opportunities to really love one another, right? So friends, even though it's not the creative society, let's start loving each other after all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, friends. Thank you for being here.